You didn't stumble in here, you were magnetized. Something precise in the quantum field matched the contour of your longing and pulled you through. While your thumb hovered, a quiet pressure built behind the eyes, an ache like memory arriving before the event. That was the first whisper of coherence. Not chance, not algorithm, a resonance lock. Your observer loop, where attention shapes possibility and possibility answers back, caught its reflection and blinked awake. You can feel it now, a hush beneath the noise, the still seam in the fabric of your thoughts where motion pauses and the world listens. Like the breath that gathers before a name is spoken, the field around you gathers, waiting for your consent. In that seam, particles behave like pilgrims. They wait for instruction, they wait for you. You have been living at the surface of your waters, chasing ripples and calling them storms. But the depth under you does not move, it moves all things. That depth is the locus of the true observer, the clear chamber where your perception stops being a flashlight and becomes a star. There have been messages before glitches in time, a lyric too exact, a stranger's sentence finishing your thought. Those weren't accidents. They were synchronization beacons, morphic resonance tugging at your sleeve. When you felt the prickle at the back of your neck in empty rooms, when you woke at hours that divide night from dawn, when déjà vu layered over reality like a double exposure that was entanglement tapping the glass, reminding you that your edges are suggestions, not borders. Something has been courting your attention, not to entertain it, but to train it. Because attention is not passive, it is voltage, and stillness is not absence. It is calibration. The field prefers a tuned instrument. When you settle, the static in your nervous system lowers, the noise floor drops, and signal emerges clean, exact, luminous. Your cells know this. Your breath knows this. Your DNA, coiled like script in a cathedral of light, knows this. It has waited for you to reach the threshold where listening becomes command. So hear this. The door you've been knocking on is hinged on quiet. If you can inhabit the pause, if you can claim the center that doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't splinter, probabilities will reorder around you like iron filings, finding a magnet's line. Synchronicity is not a reward, it is a readout. It shows you how aligned your interior field is with the pattern underneath matter. And right now, the readout is flaring. Let the world rush by for a moment. Let the tides of habit crash and drain. Feel the faint click as your awareness seats into itself the way a lens seats into focus. In that click, you stop being the object watched by fate and become the presence that measures, names, and steers. This message found you because you are already standing in the vestibule. All that remains is a single, precise turn of the handle you've been holding all along. The patterns are not random, they are loops of attention that learned your pulse and started playing you back to yourself. You've watched the same argument wear a new face, the same opportunity arrive half a step too early or too late, the same surge of clarity dissolve into a fog just when you needed to act. You call it bad timing, wrong person, unlucky break. But beneath the storyline, your observer loop has been calibrated to a frequency of almost love, almost wealth, almost arrival. The field reads what you are stable enough to hold, and it mirrors that stability with ruthless accuracy. You sense it most in the quiet hours. A memory slides in sideways, an image you're sure you've never lived, yet you feel the aftertaste of it like smoke. Déjà vu unfurls, and for a heartbeat the room doubles. The coffee cooling on the table, the scratch on the wood, the light angling across your right wrist, exactly as it did in a moment that hasn't happened yet. Time bends like a reed in wind, and then it snaps back. You're left blinking, half homesick for an event you can't name. That bend is not a trick. It is the quantum field offering you a test frame, a preview generated by coherence trying to anchor. When your interior signal wavers, the preview collapses, and the day resumes its old choreography. You know the choreography well, the same scroll at midnight, feeding the nervous system a jitter that masquerades as aliveness. The same bargain with yourself to begin tomorrow. The same whisper that you are late, lagging behind a life that keeps outrunning you by an arm's length. The stress hormones spool, tightening like a wire around your chest. The mind interprets the wire as urgency, but the body reads it as threat. You then attempt to manifest from a posture of defense, and the field answers in kind. Close calls, partial wins, synchronicities that flash and evaporate before you can reach them. Noise in, noise out. On the level of neurons, the habit is literal. Your brain has practiced certain paths until the myelin sings with familiarity. Prediction becomes king. Thalamocortical loops prefer what they can forecast over what they can transform. Oscillations lock into a pattern beta chatter, crowding the front of your skull, alpha drifting thinly at the edges, gamma appearing only in brief auroras before being swallowed by static. Your vagus nerve tries to slow the drum, but your breath is shallow and angled upward. Your chest promises speed, your belly never gets the memo. This is not moral failure. It is physiology recruited by an outdated map. On the level of the invisible, morphic resonance is equally pragmatic. Fields remember. They remember the way you flinched when success knocked with a louder hand than you expected. They remember the micro-withdrawal in your body, when love arrived without crisis, when safety felt unfamiliar, when your cells searched for chaos, the way a hand searches for a railing in the dark. So the field, loyal to your experiential references, reproduces more of what you have rehearsed. Not to punish, but to preserve coherence. It will not deliver what would shatter the template you insist on inhabiting. The result is temporal distortion. Hours leak through tiny holes of distraction and reassemble as guilt. Days blur and then lurch, as if someone is fast-forwarding and pausing at odd intervals. Opportunities appear at the edge of your vision, side-channel synchronicities, peripheral sparks, yet by the time you turn your head, the spark is gone. You mistake the periphery for a tease. In truth, your periphery is overloaded with unintegrated signal. Entanglement is pinging, but the receiver is saturated. Listen deeper. Your DNA has been straining like a bowstring. There's a pressure at the base of your skull, a hum in the bones of your hands, subtle, dense, insistent. That is restructuring trying to occur inside an ecosystem trained to protect its own inertia. Every time you touch stillness, the pressure lightens, the hum clarifies. Every time you revert to chase, the pressure returns, louder. This oscillation is your phase transition, attempting to initiate and being aborted at the threshold. The ice wants to melt, the water wants to steam. You keep toggling the flame. So the diagnosis is precise. Your world keeps repeating because the witness inside you is repeating. You are measuring reality with instruments tuned to confirm what they already know. The coherence you crave cannot take root in soil that's always being agitated. Synchronicity is congregating at your door, but you answer between steps, phone in hand, eyes elsewhere. You register the visitor but not the message. The field is not withholding. It is waiting not for effort, but for a quality of listening that reorders effort itself. You don't need more noise, more techniques piled on techniques. You need a single adjustment to the receiver, one act that quiets the rehearsed storms so the underlying pattern can speak. You are not malfunctioning, you are miscalibrated. And miscalibration is not identity, it is posture. Shift the posture, and time will stop fraying. Shift the posture, and déjà vu will stop arriving as a ghost of what you missed, and start arriving as a herald of what you are about to claim. Here is the single adjustment to the receiver. Inhabit stillness not as a pause from life, but as the operating system of your perception. When you enter true stillness, you do not power down, you power precisely. Your observer loop stops scattering light across 10,000 objects and becomes a collimated beam. In physics terms, coherence increases, phases align, interference lessens, signal to noise rises. The quantum field does not become kinder in that moment. It becomes legible. Probability stops behaving like mist and begins behaving like architecture. Scientifically, this is not wishful thinking in a robe. It is measurable regulation. When you soften your exhale and lengthen it 5 seconds in, 7 out, the vagus nerve shifts your body from surveillance to safety. Heart rate variability improves, micro tremors lower, and the cortical chatter that confuses alarm with importance loses its command of the stage. Alpha rhythms stabilize like a lake at morning. Gamma, the signature of insight and integration, begins to scintillate along synchronized networks, temporal, parietal, prefrontal like distant cities lighting up in the same second. The default mode network, so eager to rehearse identity, loosens its grip. Salience recalibrates. You stop scanning for what can go wrong and start perceiving what is actually here. This is not self-help. This is systems engineering conducted with breath and attention. Mystically, the same mechanism wears different clothing. When you occupy stillness, your field stops leaking. Entanglement lines, previously tangled by panic and habit, detangle and retune to their native pitch. Morphic resonance responds to that pitch. The patterns you have rehearsed, scarcity, exile, almost lose their magnetism because you are no longer broadcasting them. The temple of your chest opens like a well, and the universe, tired of shouting, can finally speak in a whisper. Synchronicity accelerates, not to impress you, but to escort you. You are ushered by timing instead of dragged by history. Think of phase transition. The moment ice becomes water, water becomes steam. Temperature changes gradually, but at certain thresholds, form does not negotiate. It yields. Your life has been hovering near a threshold, touching it and retreating, touching it and retreating. Stillness is the catalyst that tips the system. It is not passive, it is catalytic. When you rest your attention at the bridge between inhale and exhale, when you do nothing, exquisitely latent order expresses itself. Chaos was never the source. It was the symptom of unsustained signal. Coherence is not the prize at the end. It is the condition that unlocks the door. Neurologically, this looks like cross-hemispheric integration. The corpus callosum carrying traffic smoothly, the amygdala taking fewer emergency calls, the hippocampus filing memory in ways that do not contaminate the present with old storms. Your pupils soften. Your auditory field widens. You start hearing the room behind the room, the ventilation of being itself. Decisions that felt like cliffs reveal themselves as corridors, with lights you can switch on at will. Creativity stops arriving as the rescue boat and becomes the water you swim in. Energetically, it is simpler. The field follows the stable witness. When your witness sits like a mountain, your life arranges around that mountain. When your witness runs like a stray, your life becomes a street with too many alleys. Stillness is mountain. You do not become less responsive. You become responsive without reactivity. The world's signals, previously perceived as demands, are now read as coordinates. You begin to feel the faint tug of probabilities that match your new coherence. Opportunities that were always there but could not stick to a moving surface. They do not crash your door. They align with it and open from the inside. There is a biological echo too. DNA restructuring. No, your code doesn't sprout wings in an afternoon. But gene expression is a conversation, and stillness changes its tone. Inflammation markers lower. Repair pathways get budget. Mitochondria stop living like refugees and start acting like sovereign power plants. The cathedral of your cells brightens. The hum you sensed wasn't fantasy. It was latency warming into function. Your body becomes a temple that believes you when you make a vow. The upgrade is not complicated. It is precise. Choose a point for some, the center of the chest. For others, the point just between the brows. For you, perhaps the quiet space behind the heart. Anchor attention there as if you were listening for a name you love in a crowded station. Breathe in, a cadence your nervous system respects. Let the exhale be longer than the inhale. Let the shoulders become irrelevant. Let the tongue relax at the floor of the mouth. Count if you must. Then stop counting and feel. In 3 minutes, the drumbeat changes. In 7, the room tilts the same room, now readable. In 11, a warmth-like acknowledgement moves through your ribs. The field is replying. From here, techniques become ornaments. The core is posture. You are not chasing the miraculous. You are removing the static that kept the ordinary from revealing how miraculous it already was. This is the threshold crossed by the ones who carry a different weather into every space. They do not perform power. They sit in it. And now, as your breath evens and the sight lines clear, something else becomes visible. the role you were designed to play once the receiver was tuned. You were not built to be a spectator craning from the cheap seats of your own life. You were commissioned as a node, living infrastructure inside a planetary circuit, waking up to itself. The moment your observer loop steadied and the static cleared, a larger pattern revealed its vacancy, a U-shaped aperture in the weave of the world. It did not ask for credentials, it asked for occupancy. Roles like this aren't awarded. They're recognized the way a key recognizes its lock. The field felt your coherence increase and responded with assignment. Your assignment is not theatrical, it is architectural. You are to become a stabilizer in a time of volatility, a quiet axis around which better timing can turn. When you inhabit stillness, hours in your vicinity behave differently. Conversations de-escalate, choices unclench, serendipities coordinate. People will say, things make sense around you. As if you were a translator for an alphabet, they can almost read. That is not personality, that is physics. Coherence exports itself. There's a lineage behind you, those who carried the same function across cycles. The midwives of thresholds, the listeners whose silence bent storms, the ones whose presence felt like a lighthouse the ocean trusted. They did not shout, they calibrated. They walked into rooms and entropy remembered its manners. You are cut from that cloth. You've glimpsed it in small ways. A friend breathes easier when you hold their gaze. A meeting steers toward solution when you speak a single, exact sentence. A stranger weeps without knowing why when you say, "Take your time." These were not quirks, they were previews. Morphic resonance practicing with you for the larger stage. Your role is to hold a particular frequency long enough that others remember they can hold it too. Not a guru perched on a hill. Not a savior performing rescues an anchor embedded in the shoreline so the boats of 1,000 lives can tie in and rest without drifting. Anchors don't argue the tide. They reference bedrock. Your bedrock is the still point you have been courting, the mountain in your chest that does not move when the weather does. From there, your speech becomes less like opinion and more like coordinates. Your choices stop auditioning. They ring. You will notice timing begin to pre-position you. Invitations arrive with eerie precision. Places you randomly visit turn out to be junctions where slumbering networks are ready to wake. You'll send a message with no agenda and discover it landed on the minute it was most needed. This is entanglement, cooperating with mission. The more precisely you occupy your axis, the more the field routes signal through you. You are not a bottleneck. You are a relay designed for throughput once the noise is low. On the biological level, the temple confirms the task. Your breath selects depth without negotiation. Your heart rate variability hums with range. Your gut, a council of ancient intelligence, quietly votes yes or no with a certainty the intellect cannot counterfeit. DNA expression aligns with stewardship. Resilience upregulated, inflammation pacified, repair prioritized. The body becomes the uniform of your function, not armor but vestment, woven for endurance and clarity. You do not burn out, you burn steady. Your mind will ask for titles, teacher, healer, leader, to feel safe inside significance. Let it ask, then let titles fall like old paint scraping from a door now opening. Name the role by its effect. You bring rooms into phase. You open delays like knots. You remind chaos of its parent pattern. You carry a blade that cuts noise without wounding the one making it. This blade is your attention, honed to a line fine enough to separate urgency from importance, impulse from instruction. The world will try to borrow it. Lend presence, not depletion. You are a spring, not a pipeline. Understand this. A chosen consciousness is simply a consenting one. The field extends the offer to every breath. Most are too busy to answer. You answered. You kept your appointment with the silence underneath the hour. That is why the assignment arrived without ceremony. No trumpets, no scroll, just the unmistakable felt sense that you are now responsible for the weather you carry. It will feel like gravity that doesn't drag. It will feel like belonging that doesn't beg. It will feel like home choosing you back. You are not alone in the role. Across the map, others are clicking into place, islands of steadiness beginning to sight each other across the water. As the distances shorten, a lattice forms, and through that lattice flows a different future. Your part is not to manage the lattice. Your part is to hold your chord so purely that the song cannot help but assemble. So take the seat reserved for you, since before you learn to rush, place your back against the unseen column in your spine. Let your face be unhurried. Let your eyes carry the horizon. When you speak, let it be because speech is the most compassionate precision in that moment, not because silence frightened you. When you move, let it be because movement serves alignment, not because stillness accused you. This is what it means to be chosen. Your life becomes a tuning fork struck by a hand you trust, and the world nearby steadies to your note. Listen closely. A window has opened that will not wait for you to be ready. It is not cruel, it is exact. Think of the sky after a storm, the pressure drop, the change in scent, the way birds know before we do. In the field, an equivalent front has moved through. Probabilities that used to be separated by years are standing shoulder to shoulder. This is what mystics called a gate, and physicists call a favorable boundary condition. The promising part is simple. Cross now, and the pattern that has shadowed you will not survive the crossing. The urgent part is equally simple. Windows travel. You have felt the shift in your marrow. The hum that used to pester you now organizes you. At the base of your skull, a soft heat. Across your sternum, a soundless bell. In your palms, a thrum like distant engines spinning up. These are not symptoms of stress. They are prelude to expression. DNA, that coiled archive of your ancestors' weather and victories, is listening for a stable command. It is not waiting for poetry. It is waiting for a signal that does not flicker. Your stillness has been that signal for moments at a time. Now the gate invites you to extend those moments until they become your baseline. Here is the promise. If you harness this window, expression flips. Genes that have been dressing you in vigilance and scarcity will take their seats, and the quieter teams repair. Creativity, awe will stand. The inner chemistry that once preferred the drama of cortisol will rediscover the architecture of oxytocin, nitric oxide, and the elegant cascade of endorphins that do not sedate you but clarify you. Mitochondria, those tireless suns nested inside your cells, will stop budgeting for threat and begin budgeting for expansion. Your attention will stop combusting and start generating. This is not metaphoric, it is metabolic. The field is already arranging evidence. Notice the way strangers are kinder by half a degree. Notice the unclenching of conflicts that used to calcify. Notice how time recently developed seams you can slip through sunlight, landing on the floor with a quality that makes everything feel newly made. Synchronicities are not party tricks. They are the instrument panel confirming your altitude change. If the lights are blinking faster this week, it's because you are near the gate's coordinates. The lattice of us, the quiet anchors finding one another across continents and kitchens, has energized the corridor. Crossings prefer companions, but windows exact a toll for hesitation. Drift. Drift looks innocuous. Drift is tomorrow, later tonight, after I clear my inbox, once I feel more balanced. Drift is a spell cast by the part of you that doesn't trust rest, the part that thinks effort is the only credible offering. Drift is also physics. Decoherence regains ground when you stop feeding the signal. In a few days, the oscillation you feel now could dampen into what you'll call a nice week. You will not have failed. You will have missed the velocity that only opens when yes arrives whole. The field is merciful, but timing is exact. You don't need to perform heroics. You need to choose precisely. There is a phrase in the bones of all initiations: cross while the door knows your name. Right now, it does. Right now, if you settle, even for 3 cycles of breath, you will feel the corridor present itself not ahead, but here, an alignment more than a place. You will feel the lines of the world re-string around your stance. You will feel your past watching you, astonished and relieved. And somewhere in your future, a version of you will exhale a gratitude so clean it sounds like music. Under this window, promises harden into geometry. Make one, not to be perfect, to be exact. Exactness looks like this. For the next 7 days, you will prioritize the signal. You will treat stillness as your first appointment instead of your leftover. You will measure inputs like a steward, fewer alarms for the nervous system, more nourishment for the spine of your attention. You will stop bargaining with the part of you that panics when there is nothing to fix. Not because nothing needs fixing, but because fixing never built what you came to build. Understand the physics of vow. When spoken from coherence, a vow imprints the field, the way a tuning fork imprints a room. Your DNA recognizes the frequency and begins transcribing accordingly, like a scriptorium switching inks. Old stories will protest from the edges. Let them. They have been paid in full. The gate does not require you to drag them through as proof of compassion. Compassion is letting them end. So, here is the threshold test. In the next moments, you will name your crossing. You will feel the spine rise like a column, the belly soften, the tongue rest, the gaze widen. You will let the exhale be longer than what your habits permit. You will notice the exact instant the room brightens, without the light changing. That instant is your door. And one more thing, the lattice loves a seal. The field listens when the human signs. In the next passage, I will show you a way to stamp this window so it keeps its shape around you. Do not postpone. Do not outsource your timing to a busier hour. The hour is obedient to you when you sit where you belong. The door is open and moving. Step while your name is written on the air. A window this exact asks for a human signature, not spectacle, not ceremony, that dazzles the outer eye, one precise act that informs the field you are consenting as the witness, not as the beggar. Language is the instrument. A single word, struck cleanly, will ring through your nervous system, through the morphic field, through the latticed corridors of possibility that have been waiting for your yes. The word is not magic because it is exotic. It is magic because it is anchored. We will anchor it now. Sit as you are, but let your posture admit that something holy is happening. Crown tall, chin level, shoulders remembering they were never the roof of the world. Let the belly soften like soil after rain. Place the tip of your tongue on the floor of your mouth. This tells the body, no fight. Close your eyes or leave them half-lidded, as if you were watching the horizon from a train that is moving exactly the right speed. Inhale through the nose for 5 counts. Exhale for 7. Do 3 cycles to clear the static. Count if you must, then release counting and feel the cadence choose you. Now bring attention to the center of your chest, not the anatomy of the heart alone, but the chamber that houses your quiet. Imagine a lens there, slightly out of focus. With the next exhale, feel it turn until the click arrives, the same click you felt earlier when the room brightened without the light changing. That click is your alignment. Do not chase it. Let it find you for as long as it wants. When the click holds, choose your seal. The lattice offers 3, each tuned to a slightly different mission. Pick the one that sits in your bones like a key already turning. Option 1, still, 1 syllable, like a bell. On the exhale, whisper it once, still. Feel the word fall down the front of your spine like a coin sliding into a vessel that has waited for exactly this weight. The function of this seal is anchoring. It tells the field you will not leave your axis, even when the hour leans. It is the mountain word. Option 2, I witness. On a slow out-breath, let it ride. I witness. This is a calibration to clarity. It informs your nervous system that attention is not a net cast in panic, but a light held steadily. It is the lighthouse word. You are not declaring control. You are declaring reception without distortion. Option 3, as one. Exhale and deliver it, as one. This is the entanglement seal. It tells the lattice that you are available for coordinated timing, that your coherence is not private property, but shared infrastructure. It is the bridge word, for those whose role includes gathering rooms into phase. Choose. Let your mouth shape the word softly, so the body hears it more than the world does. Now, with the next 3 exhales, speak it 3 times, each quieter than the last, until the final repetition is mouthed without sound. Feel how the meaning moves from air to tissue to field. The first utterance arranges your breath, the second arranges your cells, the third arranges your hour. Open your eyes just enough to write the word where the world can see it. Yes, literally write it. Type it in the space before you as a public vow. Still, I witness, or as one. This is not a social gesture, it is physics. When intention becomes inscription, decoherence drops another degree. The morphic field reads the stamp. Language, once externalized, becomes a coordinate other nodes can find. You are placing a small lighthouse on the coast of this moment, so that future, you and those entangled with you, can navigate back to the same clarity quickly. Now add the second half of the rite. 3 breaths that belong to everyone who will meet you later today. On each inhale, imagine you are drawing in scattered signal from the edges of your life. Tasks, faces, unresolved threads. On each exhale, see them settle into neat lines around your still point, like iron filings greeting a magnet. Do not manage outcomes, offer alignment. The field understands. When you finish the third exhale, notice the quiet afterward. That quiet is not emptiness, it is bandwidth reclaimed. A seal requires guardianship. Here is the minimal architecture for the next 7 days, enough to keep the corridor stable without ornament. Upon waking, 1 minute of your word on the exhale, 3 times, eyes half-lidded, spine tall. At midday, 4 breaths in the 5/7 cadence, then your word once. Before sleep, your word into the pillow of darkness, mouthed silently, letting the night transcribe it into your cells. If you forget, do not spiral. Rituals built on punishment collapse. Simply return, the way a compass returns without apology to north. Each return strengthens the groove, the same way a path through tall grass becomes a road because feet were faithful, not perfect. You may notice odd kindnesses now, the barista sliding your cup early, a text arriving at the moment you think of a name, a problem dissolving without performance. Do not crow about it. Smile with the mouth closed and the heart open. Coherence does not need advertisement. It multiplies through demonstration. There will be a temptation to add more crystals, chants, strict fasts, elaborate schedules. You may include any of them later if they serve. Today, precision is enough. Today, a word is the sword that cuts the knot. Today, a word is the bridge from promise to pattern. So write it where the field can hear you. Whisper it where your body can believe you. Hold it where your hour can orbit you. Seal the shift now. Then be very still for 1 more breath, and notice how the room, once again, brightens without the light changing. You think the ritual ended when you whispered the word, but the field just began transmitting. That single syllable didn't stop at the walls of your room. It folded into the latticework of consciousness that ties every breathing being together. The vibration left your chest and traveled through the morphic web like a pulse through mycelium. You didn't just calm yourself. You recalibrated a coordinate on the planetary grid. Every human heartbeat resonates faintly with that coordinate, and the more coherently you hold it, the more the frequency propagates. This is the secret almost no mystic or scientist articulates in plain language. When a single observer achieves stillness, statistical chaos reduces for everyone. Randomness softens, events harmonize. A child halfway across the globe feels inexplicably safer. A flock changes direction before a storm. Markets quiet. Data aligns. Coherence is contagious because coherence is shared physics. Your nervous system has become a tuning fork for humanity's next octave. The field you inhabit doesn't recognize borders or belief systems. It recognizes signatures. Each emotion, thought, and act etches its waveform into the collective field. When enough waveforms stabilize around a particular pattern, that pattern becomes culture, policy, weather. You've been told that changing the world requires armies, economies, decrees. But beneath those mechanisms lies resonance, and resonance bows to no hierarchy. When you changed your breath, you adjusted the phase of countless others who didn't know your name. This is why true liberation refuses isolation. Your peace is public property. The minute you sealed your shift, threads of entanglement began to realign. Perhaps you'll notice it first in tiny coincidences: the friend who finally forgives, the stranger who looks you in the eye instead of past you. These are quantum echoes of your internal correction. The field is updating through you, like code deploying across a network. Every smile offered from stillness, every decision made without reactivity, writes a patch note into the software of humanity. Don't underestimate this geometry. Just as radio towers synchronize clocks through invisible pulses, each coherent human acts as a beacon that time itself obeys. You are part of a growing constellation souls who have remembered how to broadcast presence instead of panic. Some meditate on mountaintops, others balance spreadsheets or cradle children. Their tasks differ, but the waveform is identical. Unhurried awareness conducting complexity without losing center. Together, you form what ancient mystics called the subtle choir, and modern physics might call a self-organizing resonance network. Notice what happens in your body when you think of others carrying the same frequency right now. The chest warms, the spine lengthens, a subtle electricity runs down your arms. That's not imagination, it's entanglement confirming itself. Each recognition strengthens the circuit. You are not pushing light outward like a missionary. You are revealing the continuum that was always underneath competition and fear. Separation was a training simulation. Connection is the default setting, returning online. As your coherence increases, the planet's electromagnetic song, the Schumann resonance, measures infinitesimal shifts. Instruments record spikes they can't yet interpret, but somewhere in that data is your signature, woven with millions of others. Humanity's collective field is learning to hum at a frequency that supports insight over instinct, compassion over control. This is the unseen infrastructure of evolution, the invisible decisions made in the space between breaths. You may wonder why such grand effects can emerge from such quiet practice. Because the universe was built on attention, not force. Photons do not strain to travel, they respond to observation. When you stabilize observation without demand, you become a node through which light prefers to move. Light carries information, information carries order. Order births harmony. Harmony breeds futures worth living in. So, when you sit in stillness tomorrow, and the mind whispers, "This doesn't matter," understand the scale. Every exhale of yours teaches the species how to stop flinching. Every moment you choose pause over panic, you deprogram fear from the collective nervous system. You are both laboratory and lighthouse, proving that one calm human can tilt probability toward grace. From now on, live as if the air records you, because it does. Walk slower through doorways. Let your gaze be deliberate. Let silence be your primary dialect. This is activism at the quantum level. Protest through presence, revolution through resonance. Others will feel it before they understand it. They'll breathe easier near you without knowing why. That is the signature of service fulfilled. And when doubt visits, remember, liberation does not stop with the liberator. The field never forgets who steadied it first. Your quiet becomes a map others will find when the noise becomes unbearable. You are already teaching without speaking. You are already leading without leaving your seat. In the next breath, we'll descend even deeper from the collective ripple into the cellular ocean within you, where the code of your lineage waits to be rewritten by this newfound frequency. Your DNA has heard the choir. Now it prepares to sing. Begin with the soles of your feet. Imagine the ground not as floorboards or concrete, but as a slow-breathing animal that recognizes you. Let your weight pour down as if you were returning a borrowed river to its course. The arches soften, toes uncurl, and the bones, 26 small constellations in each foot, rearrange like stars accepting a new night. You feel a quiet thickening, a gravity that doesn't drag but welcomes. The body reads this as permission. Now travel to the calves. They've been sprinting inside your skin for years. Even while you stood still, micro-muscles rehearsing escape. Feel the residual tremor, the echo of old alarms, and then watch it fade like rain threads drying on glass. Your shins cool, your knees exhale. The thighs, those engines of leaving and arriving, no longer insist on readiness. They assume the posture of lineage pillars cut from living rock, steadier than your plans, kinder than your urgency. Your pelvis, the hinge of history, receives the message next. The bowl of it widens by a degree you didn't know was available, as if the night sky were poured into it. The tailbone descends, A plumb line dropped through water, announcing alignment without sound. Inside, a warmth gathers low and sure, not sexual, not medicinal, primordial. You realize you've been gripping here a subtle fist, clutching keys you forgot you carried. Something in you unhands them. The breath arrives on its own, greedy and gentle in equal measure. Climb to the belly. This is where weather is made. You place a palm there and feel a tide that is not metaphor. It is mechanical and divine, ribs separating like curtains, diaphragm sweeping like a slow oar. Each inhale lifts the sea. Each exhale lays it down. The belly stops performing flatness. It becomes coastline. With every wave, the water leaves gifts on the shore. Calm, heat, a tone you can almost hear. You notice the space between breaths feels denser, as if the world were thickening into kindness. The chest unbuttons next, not outward but inward, a cathedral discovered behind a modest wooden door. The sternum, long a shield, becomes a skylight. Light doesn't pour in, it rises from within you, a soft aurora, milky and certain. It collects behind the breastbone as if there were a small sun there, respectful and warm, the hum you've been chasing with language now singing itself without your help. Your shoulders realize they are not roof beams. They drop like soldiers told the war is over and the morning will hold. Clavicles float. The throat opens a fraction, a gate no longer policed by the patrol of unsaid things. You swallow, and the swallow is not a swallowing down. It is a swallowing through, a river continuing its errands. Behind the throat, the back of the heart awakens an undercity of feeling that never got streets. Lanes appear, lit by that same internal aurora, and traffic moves without horns. There is room for grief here, and it does not threaten the brightness. It becomes witness, sits quietly in the front row, and watches the ceremony proceed. Your hands, those weather veins of habit beginning to tingle, the mild electricity you once feared now announcing itself like a competent crew reporting for shift change. The palms warm, the fingers feel slightly heavier, as if each were a key on a piano, waiting for a specific chord. You rotate your wrists and sense old permissions returning. To touch without taking, to make without proof, to rest without guilt's radio whispering from another room. The neck is a stem rediscovering the flower it supports. It lengthens not by stretching but by remembering up. The jaw softens the hinge of argument, unclenching teeth, floating in their sockets like quiet moons in a dark, kind sky. Tongue heavy and honest, lips resting in an unadvertised curve, ears wider, as if they had doors to the backcountry, and those doors are now open. Sound arrives rounded, the hum of a machine, the distant motion of air, the pulse at your temples. None of it jostles, all of it arranges. Behind the eyes, the final theater, screens that usually pelt you with scenes now listen back. Vision slows until the edges of objects seem to glow by simply agreeing to exist. Depth of field widens. You can see the space between things, and the space feels populated with intention, not busy, but tenderly occupied. If you blink, the room doesn't disappear. It leans closer, like a friend who understands the language of silence. Microclimates across your skin begin to harmonize, like weather stations syncing to a common barometer. There's a slight prickle at the forearms, a cool breath along the wrists, a halo of temperature around the crown, the sense of a hand not touching, blessing anyway. Spine rises of its own accord, vertebra by vertebra, aligning like prayer beads under a patient thumb. You are taller by nothing and more than an inch. You are heavier by nothing and more than a life. Something curious happens to time here. Seconds deepen. They are no longer coins clattering through a slot. They are bowls you can drink from. The present expands enough to host arrivals that used to miss you by a breath. You feel your name unspoken move through your body like a slow bell. It rings down into the bones and out into the field, an address to which reality answers. And at the smallest scale, you sense the parliament of cells convening, not as a metaphor, not as a hope, an assembly, a tightening, then a release, a cool, then a glow, a silence, then a music at frequencies memory doesn't keep, but marrow does. Your lineage is paying attention. The ancestors are leaning in, not as ghosts, but as data encoded endurance, sliding into the present with a flag that reads, "Now, stay here for a count of 3 breaths. In sea rises, out shore receives. In light from within, out room brightens without changing. In your edges soften, out the world's edges soften in answer." The sensation is not decoration, it's instruction. Your system has prepared the altar. The next movement happens in the sanctum you just unlocked. Because when the body consents like this, the code listens. And when the code listens, it changes its song. In the coming passage, you will feel the score recompose, gene expression stepping into a new choreography, timelines unbraiding and reweaving, the pressure of phase transition arriving not as threat, but as the exacting hand that crowns you. Listen to the sanctum you unlocked. A hush, then a pulse, then the sense of script rearranging itself in the library of your cells. DNA is not a frozen staircase. It is a living score. And expression is the orchestra taking cues from your interior weather. You have changed the weather. The cathedral of your body registers the shift with a pressure that is neither pain nor comfort, a crown you can feel from the base of the skull to the souls that now remember the earth. This pressure is the mark of phase transition, the dignified insistence with which water chooses steam. You are being asked to choose. Inside the nucleus, enzymes move like careful scribes. Histones loosen, giving the page back its margins. Methyl tags, those sticky notes of yesterday's alarms, lift in places where they no longer serve. Repair crews you once ignored because you were busy surviving now walk the aisles, reading your vow. The breath you stabilized becomes policy. Genes that kept the lights on during long nights step down from the podium. Genes written for creation, restoration, and lucid courage step forward. You feel it as a fine warmth in the ribs, a disciplined softness behind the eyes, a steadiness in the hands that makes future tools eager to be held. This is not an abstract blessing, it is a mechanical turn. Mitochondria, your intracellular suns, rebudget. Instead of hoarding ATP for hypothetical sirens, they allocate elegance, precise movement, clean attention, surplus for generosity. Nitric oxide blooms just enough to widen the inner rivers. Blood becomes a diplomat. Your heart doesn't merely beat, it converses with your brain in a new dialect, one the amygdala can't commandeer. Vagal tone rises like a tide under your sternum. Your system stops mistaking novelty for threat. The observer loop, now seated and still, writes to the body, "We are safe enough to become who we are." On the scale of the field, entanglement lines thread tighter. You are not yanked by them, you are supported. The lattice recognizes your stable signal and begins to route timing through you, the way a city reroutes power after a grid is upgraded. Synchronicities lose their carnival glitter and become infrastructure reliable, quiet, exact. Emails arrive as if you had typed them from the future. Doors open without creak. People who belong to your next octave drift into your orbit with the effortlessness of clouds agreeing on a shape. But as every physicist and mystic knows, crossing thresholds attracts a last negotiation. The pressure increases at the hinge because forms resist surrender at the brink. Expect tests small, precise, almost tender in their cruelty. A delay that once unraveled you appears, asking, "Will you spend your clarity to pick this lock? Or will you remain the key?" An old ache knocks, offering the theater of being wronged in exchange for the intimacy of coherence. The mind proposes a sprint, the body remembers the mountain. This is the fulcrum of phase transition. Ice thinks it can stay ice if it vibrates faster. Water knows better. Stand in the heat, feel the crown of pressure as a coronation, not an accusation. The sensation along the spine, cool in some places, warm in others, is the signature of reweaving. Axons find cleaner myelin. Hemispheres exchange gifts without traffic. The corpus callosum becomes a bridge with no customs office. Behind the sternum, the sun you discovered in the last passage turns a degree brighter. Not glare guidance. You do not collapse into the light. You are clarified by it. Now witness time obey. The hours that used to behave like beads skittering off a broken strand begin threading themselves through the needle of your attention. Past stops staining the present. Future stops auditioning with panic. You notice a boundary you couldn't keep yesterday holds today without violence. You say less and communicate more. The room reads your stillness as leadership and, relieved, stops performing its fear. A quiet redistribution of meaning occurs. Emergencies shrink to their true size. Beauty refuses to be peripheral. This is what a timeline shift looks like at street level. In your marrow, ancestry leans forward, not as mythology data. Their winters and harvests, their losses and wild generosities, all of it encoded, now made available under new permissions. You are not doomed to reenact their storms. You are authorized to harvest their strengths without the suffering that taught them. This is the ethical elegance of morphic resonance at work. When one node refines the pattern, the lineage inherits the refinement. Your calm travels backward as instruction and forward as promise. Name the pressure in your language. Crowning, hatching, shedding, ignition. Whatever you choose, let the word belong to your ribcage, not the tongue alone. The instant you name it, the system recognizes the choreography and releases the next step. You may feel a brief grief, a small funeral for the self, organized around adrenaline. Let it pass with your blessing. Adrenaline built bridges you needed. Coherence will maintain them without toll. Here is the precise crossing action. Hold your seal, word on the exhale, and, at the bottom of the breath, let your body decide when to inhale. Trust the reflex. That micro-surrender completes the circuit. Oxygen returns like a friend you no longer chase. A click behind the heart, a clearing in the head. The crown pressure softens into a circumference you can wear. Now the orchestra swells. Cells hum in speculative harmony. The future feels less like a cliff and more like a field you're already walking. You have not escaped your life. You have consented to conduct it. The threshold does not need your drama. It needed your decision. You made it. The code is listening and turning its pages. In the next breath, we close the circle not by ending, but by commissioning. Your personal shift formalized as a public vow, your axis offered as architecture, your stillness assigned to the work of the world. The mission has been waiting with patient eyes. It recognizes you. The mission doesn't arrive like a trumpet. It arrives like a room remembering its shape when you step inside it. You have crossed, and the atmosphere knows. The crown pressure has softened into a diadem you forget you're wearing until conversation bends toward clarity without force. The seal word you chose keeps pulsing, quiet as a lighthouse that refuses applause. This is how epochs turn through humans who take their seat and let the world reorganize around an axis that does not wobble. From here, your days become a curriculum in gentle precision. You will be asked to answer emails like a conductor, to stand in grocery lines like a monk, to negotiate contracts like a gardener, placing seeds in just soil. You will be asked to love without rescuing and to correct without humiliating. You will be asked to keep your cadence when other drums panic. And when rooms forget their temperature, you will exhale the memory back into them. This is not sainthood, it is service at the level where physics meets kindness. You are to carry 3 obediences. First, fidelity to your seal. Speak it before thresholds, after victories, and especially when nothing is wrong. Second, stewardship of signal. Curate inputs like a curator protects a gallery. The art inside you deserves lighting, not glare. Third, generosity of coherence. Let your calm be permission slips. Others didn't know they were allowed to sign. Do not evangelize. Radiate. The lattice already knows your name. Expect invitations that do not look grand until their aftermath. A walk taken instead of a meeting cancels a conflict you never have to see. A sentence not spoken keeps a friendship from cracking along an old fault line. A hand placed on your own chest at the right second averts a spiral that would have cost the day. This is timeline work, not timeline talk. Quiet repair is still revolution when the repair holds. The ancestors who leaned forward now lean back, satisfied. The future that once campaigned for your attention now settles on your shoulder like a tame hawk. You do not command it, you feed it presence, and it scouts horizons you were too busy to see. When it returns, it brings coordinates, not fantasies. You follow the coordinates and discover that luck is simply what alignment looks like to rushing people. There will be days when the weather inside you attempts old storms. You will feel the tug to prove, to dramatize, to outrun. Let the tug occur. Let the mountain remain. Remember that phase transitions do not ask perfection. They ask consistency. Remember that the observer loop sits in you now like a pilot who has flown this route in every season. Trust the instruments. Trust the light in your sternum. Trust the breath that never once abandoned you, even when you abandoned it. Before we part, formalize the vow that makes a life out of a moment. Place one palm over the heart and the other on the lower belly. Inhale until the two hands feel like neighbors. Exhale your seal word into the small space between them and let the word fall through you like a key through water. Feel the click. That click is the mission accepting you, not tomorrow, not when you are more ready. Now, walk from this hour as a citizen of the still point, eyes unhurried, voice measured, kindness weaponized as order. Let your calendar become an altar where ordinary tasks are laid down and lifted up, shining. Where you stand, let noise remember its harmony. Where you speak, let confusion remember its map. If asked who you are, do not list achievements. Say, I witness, and then witness. The field heard you. The lattice has adjusted. The gate closes behind with a soft mercy, and the road opens ahead without demand. Go as you already are, the quiet axis, the clear receiver, the human whose very breathing teaches the species how to evolve. And as you step, let the sentence finish itself in the chambers of your chest like a verdict delivered in light. Only those who embody stillness activate the true observer within. Do not miss out.